Okay, so last time we spoke of Nishkam Karma, desirelessness, Buddhi Yoga, Yoga of intelligence. All these are words that are being used for Nishkam Karma Yoga. Okay, so just a very quick recap on Nishkam, without any desire, desirelessness. So few things, just restating. I'm just restating. We discussed this last time. If anybody has anything to add or any questions, we can look at that. So, pushing away desires is not desirelessness. That's the first thing, correct? You cannot, we are all like this. We are all excited to read the Bhagavad Gita to understand what Krishna says. Now, this should become, I want to internalize this. This should become part of my life. I'm telling you, so many things in chapter 2 are so difficult to internalize. We can only take baby steps towards it. So, Krishna speaks of desireless. Chalo, I am going to be desireless. I have no desires. Tomorrow we go around talking like this to our family. No, just you're saying that I have no desires. Jo karna hai kar lo. It is not a state of desirelessness. Okay. Your very thought, your very proclamation, I have no desires. I don't want any desires. That itself is a desire, or to be in line with Bhagavad Gita, to absolutely be, what Krishna is saying. That itself is mm, a desire. So that's the first thing to understand. Pushing away desires is not desirelessness. Renunciation is not desirelessness. Is everybody? Are we all a thumbs up on that? Renunciation is not desirelessness. I spoke to you about a householder and a monk. One says, I made $30,000 and I've got it. He's so proud of his $30,000 earning. One says, I gave up $30,000 to become a monk. He is running away from it. One is running towards it, towards that 30,000. But both of them are attached to that money aspect, to the 30,000 aspect. So as long as there is attachment, there is no vairagya. Vairagya, renunciation, is a state which automatically rises in you. It is not something that you can acquire by your effort. Whenever it happens, and I would like to quote all these people who I keep listening to, whether it's Osho or Sadhguru or Sri Sri, they always say, when it happens by grace. That last thing, and in Yoga Sutras also it says that last thing, it will only happen by grace. Your effort can only take you up to a certain point. So pushing away and saying that I'm going to leave my family and so I have become a renunciant, this is not the sannyas. Sannyas is a state of being that will rise in you. You can live in the middle of the family with in the marketplace and be a sannyasi. That is the sannyas that Krishna is speaking of. So, renunciation is not desirelessness. Renunciation is a state of being. So, rag is color, vairagya is colorless. So, right now we have so many colors, so many attachments, so many things that we are drawn to or we are averse to. There can come a point where, you know, everything becomes okay. So, today I'm the person who is, I'm a rice person, I'm not a chapati person. I'm an apple person, I'm not a blackberry person. Uh, I'm a morning person, I'm not a night person. We are very much in, we are very colored. This is called being colored. So, uh, the whole practice of vairagya has become colorless. That if it's morning, I can be a morning person. If it's night, okay, I'll be a night person. Today you have chapati, okay, I can be a chapati person. I am not stuck to anything. So my consciousness becomes so fluid, it just moves. The whole path of yoga is to how to make this consciousness so fluid that it will just move like this. It will become so free. Right now I'm stuck. If I don't get this, oh, I like hot food. Now you've given me cold food and I'm not happy. So this is the problem. We are stuck. How to get unstuck? For us, so all of us who are into sadhana, our whole practice, our sadhana is about reducing our compulsions. Sadhguru keeps telling us that compulsions will drop, then vairagya happens. As we keep going into sadhana, and many of you may have noticed that your comfort zone has expanded. See, even the practice of asana is what? Expanding your comfort zone. Today, I could only touch my knees. Now I can go. My relationship of my upper body to my lower body has shifted, because suddenly in a Paschimottanasana, I'm flat down. I can touch my feet. My head is down to my knees. What is my own relationship with myself is beginning to change. This is this is an expansion of comfort zone. This is movement towards that state of vairagya, renunciation, small steps towards that. But you need sadhana for it. It doesn't just happen. Whatever kind of, you may have different kinds of sadhana. You may have kriya sadhana, you may have bhakti sadhana. Bhakts also become like that. As long as there is some one pointedness, it will take you to that direction. So renunciation is not desirelessness. Desirelessness and renunciation come to pass as your state of consciousness begins to rise. Action becomes nishkam karma when desires do not exist. Okay. So whatever you're doing, there is no real motivation behind doing it. It just does not exist. See, uh, how can that happen? That can only happen when you are playfully engaged in life. Very nice example that Osho has given later on in the Gita commentary, but I'll share with you because it's very relevant. He says, see, you participate in a game with children. Okay, your daughter is playing, she's playing the game of getting a bride and a groom married, and she has two families set up. You know, the whole setup is there. There are two families, there are baratis, and she says that, okay, now you should participate in my game. Which side do you want to belong to the bride or the groom? And then you're like, now you want to participate, you want her to feel that you are engaged. So you say, okay, fine, I can be on the groom side. She says, no, 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 we don't have enough people on the bride side. You should be on the bride side. You're like, okay, fine, I'll be on the bride side. But you're okay with it, and you can still participate in it. And then she will tell you, no, but if you're on the bright side, you have to dress up like this. When she goes, you have to do this. You will have to take her around, walk from here and go there. And you will say, yes, 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 I can do this. We can participate fully with our child, but still we have no attachment to the outcome. And yet we are fully involved, isn't it? In that game, in that Leela, we are fully involved. Suppose the whole thing collapses, or she says, you cannot be on the groom side. We're not going to start crying, feeling miserable that, oh, I wanted to be on this side. The same thing happens in our life as our 40, 50-year-old persona that we carry. We will have all kinds of problems. We cannot practice in the same way. But the child in that game is so involved that child can get emotional about it. If you refuse to follow the way she is saying, that child may get so upset, she may start crying, isn't it? We are like that child for Krishna. And Krishna is telling Arjun, what are you crying about? This is what we will also tell our daughter. Now, why are you crying? This is just a gudda goody. This is just dolls. Why are you so worried about it? What if it broke? We'll get another one. Krishna is talking just like this to Arjun, saying, Arjun, why are you worried? This is just appearances. This will just go away. So, but he's speaking from a high state of consciousness, that just like we are in a higher state of consciousness compared to that 5-year-old child. Does that make sense? It's a very good analogy to understand what he's saying. We are both the child also, and a higher state of consciousness also. Krishna is like that in our life. So motivations and expectations should not exist. You are just part of whatever is going on, and you are involved with it, you're engaged with it, you're enjoying it. Only then the action that you are engaged in becomes nishkam. There is no, it's, you're participating with the child, you're having fun, you're just whatever is going on, you're going on with the motion of it, whatever is being told to you, but involved, 100% involved. So how to move on this path of Nishkam? We have the four paths of yoga: Gyan, Bhakti, Karma, Kriya. All the four paths will take you there. Depending upon the type you are, you will have to take on some practices. Don't think it's not going to happen. Colorlessness will not happen without doing these practices. Like pranayama itself helps to clear the veils that cover our life, which is mentioned in the Yoga Sutras. Pranayama will thin down the veils. So the colorlessness will begin to happen. Vairagya will rise. Otherwise, there is too much rag, too much clenching around desires. So, non judgmental awareness of oneself is awareness, of course, is a very important aspect as we go along this path. and non judgmental awareness. So become very, very aware of whatever is happening in this system, in inner cosmos. uh, Whatever is rising, it can be good, it can be bad, it can be immoral, doesn't matter. Even if something immoral is rising in you, don't suppress it. That's the first thing. Don't suppress anything. Simply observe it, that okay, this is rising in me. After you have observed it, you can choose to act whichever way you want, whichever way you think is appropriate, you act, but only after having observed what kind of movement, feeling, thought, desire, energy is rising in me. This is very important, and never give yourself labels, even if you notice something which is a negative, which is seen as immoral, which you yourself will be. I had this fellow practitioner in Hong Kong. She was a Buddhist, and we used to practice Ashtanga Vinyasa together, Sherry. And I remember one day she came and she told me, Swati, I'm shocked, how can such a thought rise in me? I thought I was such a nice person, but such a thought came in me. And this can happen to all of us because we are an accumulation of samskaras from so many lifetimes. You don't know what you were in a previous lifetime, criminal, crook. You don't know what happened. Something good can come up. So don't worry about it. It will come. And it's a way to allow it to come to surface and release. Let it happen. You don't have to act. Thought, this is how samskaras are so many. The impressions will keep coming. You don't have to act on any impression, every impression. You can still consciously choose your action. So consciously acting itself frees you from karma bandhan. Sadhguru says that conscious action. Be aware of whatever action you are performing. And if you are okay with whatever results it gives, it's fine. If you think you are okay accepting hard results, difficult outcomes, it's all right. Go ahead. If you are acting in consciousness, fully aware, it's acceptable. It's okay. It will still be liberating karma. Second, how to move on this path? Ekagrata. We spoke about focus, and in Swami Sarvapriyananda's commentary, he has mentioned how Swami Vivekananda says that the difference between an ordinary mind and an extraordinary mind is simply that of the level of focus, the level of attentiveness that we have. So, attention is a great capacity to cultivate. Dharana, concentration is very important. If you have children at home, one of the biggest things, a gift that we can give is to cultivate attention, the ability to stay with one thing for a long period of time. We we are living in an environment which is absolutely unsupportive of it, but this is the greatest thing that can. Sorry, 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 sorry. Just wait a minute. Where is this coming from? Oh, okay. Sorry, my something else clicked. Okay, so this we've done. I just wanted to recap that. And the third thing, which I had also shared on the group chat from Ramanujacharya's commentary, Swami Sarvapriyananda says that, he belongs to Vishisht Advaita, which is a combination of bhakti and gyan, and but bhakti is held the highest. And he says that, you know, there it's like you can be in Nishkam state only when all your desires have dissolved. You can come into that state, but at the same time you're being told perform Nishkam karma. So how does that happen? He says you simply direct everything towards God. So if God, see, when we say God, I don't want you to confuse this with religion. Okay, I'm asking you, does the thought of Krishna excite you? Does the thought of being in his company or being in the company of people who love him excites you? If this is exciting for you, you have a certain level of bhakti in you. It should be not that, oh, I'm going to the temple, I should bow down, I should do this chant. No, it is simply his presence, his surround, his talk, what he said, how he is. Um, if this excites you, you are a bhakt. You should understand it's the love for these forms, whether it is a Ganesha or a Krishna or whoever. It is love. Your battery is running low. I you what is happening? All right. Sorry. Okay. So direct all senses towards God. So if you want to hear music, can it be music which is dedicated to Krishna? If you want to, if the senses want to smell something nice, can that be the fragrance of incense or uh, whatever you offer, or the flowers that are offered to Krishna? Or if it is food, can it just be prasad? So even if you're cooking, you cook with this feeling that this is an offering to Krishna today. And then when you eat, you accept it like prasad. So these are the ways to move on this path of Nishkam Karma. Okay, let's move on. All right. Now, Swami Mukundananda's commentary translation on the 46th verse says, whatever purpose is served by a small well of water is naturally served in all respects by a large lake. Similarly, one who realizes the absolute truth also fulfills the purpose of all the Vedas. Okay. Osho's translation, man's needs are better fulfilled by a vast lake rather than a small pond. Similarly, it is better to experience the ultimate reality rather than knowing the Veda of the Brahmin. So see, Krishna is not condemning the Vedas here, but see, he has mentioned in this shloka very clearly that don't just know the Veda of the Brahmin, that is not going to give you uh, the freedom that you are looking for. He says, so when he's talking about this well and lake, the whole uh, emphasis is on this. See, the well is refers or corresponds to scriptural knowledge. Any human being, an enlightened human being who has had an experience, has shared his experience in words. Words create boundaries. So that is referred to as well. And well can only exist in your home. It's a small source to water, but the essence is water. Well is also water. It's like if ocean rises to the surface, well is also like a pathway to the ocean. That is what he means. So well refers to a to the scriptural knowledge, but there is something which is the ultimate knowing which happens through direct experience, which is what he calls as the ocean. And he says, do not settle down for the Vedas uh, and give up this opportunity for direct experience of ultimate knowledge. And direct experience of this ultimate knowledge, ultimate reality will not happen sitting in your home, sitting in the boundaries of your homes. You will have to break some boundaries to experience that direct knowledge. So, this is the first point, okay? When he speaks of well and lake, what he means that lake or ocean is really the direct experience. So, see, somebody like Sadhguru, if he was asked why he is called Sadhguru, he says, I'm Sadhguru because I'm not, it has just simply happened to me. Enlightenment has just happened. It's like a blossoming that happened of the direct experience. It is not something that came to him through study. And he himself says, I've not studied the Vedas, whatever. But a man who comes into uh, the understanding or the knowledge of ultimate reality already knows the Vedas. It is part of that. Because well is a small part of that ocean. Water is water. He will automatically know that. He may not be reciting that, but the truth and the essence of it is known to such a person. So Krishna is asking you to move towards that. He says you cannot replace well with the ocean. If you wish to attain that which is beyond the boundary, do not be afraid to drop that which is within the boundary. You're not going to find it in your backyard. You have to expand that boundary. Now, see, one of the things that happens to all of us on the spiritual path is, and especially when we are into philosophy and study, we end up comparing scriptures. We will compare Quran to the Bible, or whatever, Bible to the Vedas and so on. But we miss this very important point of comparing ultimate knowledge to scriptures. You get that? You know, whenever all this analysis, philosophy, study, and we hear this in the commentaries, if you guys are listening, you will hear they compare, uh, you know, what the Talmud says, the Jewish scripture, and the Bible, etc. But are we looking at what is the difference between scriptural knowledge and ultimate knowledge? This is what is being said in this particular shloka. So, scriptures are born out of someone else's experience, correct? So, Jesus, um, Christ, I mean, he did not write it, he did not give it, but it was built around his teachings. Muhammad channeled Quran, and it was written. Now, look at this. When you get stuck to scriptural knowledge, it's like this. So Osho explains it like this. He says, "See, if I have eyes and you don't have eyes, okay? I am looking at something. Say I'm looking at an elephant, and I'm trying to describe to you what an elephant is, and consider elephant to be scriptural knowledge. Okay, I have eyes. I can see. I can read. I can look at something. So I'm trying to tell you what this elephant is, what this scriptural knowledge is. You don't have eyes. Okay, you are listening through your ears. How the eyes perceive a particular thing and how the ears perceive a particular thing is very different, isn't it? You get that, isn't it? How you will perceive that elephant or that scriptural knowledge. This is the thing. So he says, all the scriptural knowledge, it is somebody else's experience, and he has said that. You simply read it and you think you will come into ultimate knowledge. No, don't get bound by the Vedas of the Brahmin. That is what Krishna says. Go for the ocean itself. Go for that direct knowledge and you will come into liberation. You will come out of desires. See, he spoke about Nishkam Karma. He's speaking about the yoga of intelligence, Buddhi Yoga. He said all this Buddhi Yoga will rise in you if you do these things, if you explore ultimate reality. So, okay. This is an important shloka. I think many of you have heard it. कर्मण्येवाधिकारस्ते मा फलेषु कदाचन मा कर्म फल हेतुर्भुर माते संगोस्त्व कर्मणि. Okay, so you have a right to perform your prescribed duties or your prescribed actions, but you are not entitled to the fruits of your actions. Big teaching in Bhagavad Gita, everybody. I think we've grown up with hearing all this, okay? Never consider yourself to be the cause of the results. Don't consider yourself to be the cause of the results of your activities, nor be attached to inaction. Very important, very, very beautiful also. So Osho has translated this as saying you can perform an action, this is your right, but you can never determine its outcome. You can never determine its outcome. Do not have any expectations in regards to the outcome of your actions, and you will experience the joy of not being the doer of your action. So, this is a very important idea. It will be built in a big way as we go into the Bhagavad Gita, the doer of the action. The moment I say I'm the doer, I'm an ego. I'm the karta. Osho isko karta bhav bolte hain. I did it. The karta bhav. So he says, ye karta karo, do the karma, do the action, but don't be in karta bhav. How will you make these two opposites sort of sync within yourself? Then you will become free. Then you will become free from karma bandhan. So, my teacher Manoj explained it like this. He says, you have adhikar. Look at this word kara. Kara, the root word is kara, karma. It's the same, okay? To do something. Karta. Karta means the doer. Kar, action. That is the root word, okay? Now, he says you have the adhikar or the right to do something, but you do not, and Manoj explained it, you don't have adhikar of not doing something. See, it's very nicely put. He says your right is to do something. So you simply do, but you don't have the right to not do. See, uh, you can only act. You cannot not act. Does that make sense? You can only act, you cannot not act. Your adhikar, your right is only for action. Your right is not for inaction. Okay. Inaction can also be an action, and we'll look at it later. But I liked his explanation. I liked how he picked up the adhikar, karmanyeva adhikaraste. See, adhikar word is there in this shloka. Karmanyeva adhikar. Adhikar. So this is your adhikar. Your adhikar is for your right is to action, not to non action. You must act. So, when Manoj explained it, he told us that, sometimes we have this thought, I should not be thinking in this way about such a person. He says, no, you don't have this adhikar of not doing, should not be doing. Don't get into this. Focus always on what you can do, or what is the action. Don't focus on non-action. I should not be doing. Because then what does it create? It creates suppressions. And suppression is another problem. We will look at that. So, um, um, okay. So there should be totality in action. How do you perform action like this without being identified with the doer? Totality in action. Trust in a force that is larger than you. So this is very important. So you do your action. We all say, no, you do your action and you leave the results to God. Most of the times, many of us, we don't even begin our action with action. We begin with, I want this outcome, so I must act like this. Isn't it? Our whole life is like this. I want this. I want to have this house. So I must act in this way. I have to earn so much money, blah, blah. I want to become a teacher. So I need to study da 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 da. And therefore I can become a teacher. So we are actually reverse. We put the cart before the horse. So this is something which we have to watch. You simply do the action. Don't worry about the result. You do the action because it must be done. I like last time also I said, you do an action because it must be done as an act of devotion. Or why? Because it is needed. Simply at a particular time, a particular action is needed. And so you do the action. And and you do it with a certain level of trust. This trust is very important. See, it's very easy to say in words, and I hear people in Gita classes talk like this, yeah, I have done, I leave the results to God. I mean, really, somewhere inside, it's not the truth. Even the way they say it, I know it's not the truth. There is a deep trust that happens where you are enjoying the action so much you're not even concerned about the result. It's not even about enjoyment. You have become so total in the action. Your attention is so deep that there is no space left to think about outcome. Have you all experienced actions like this? I'm not saying, it could be in an action which you really enjoy. So some of you, maybe if it's playing, you're playing cricket, you're like that, isn't it? You are so total in the action. There is no thought about outcome. It doesn't occupy any space. Or when you're painting, or when you're dancing, if you are a dancer, if you're a singer, you're so total in the action. Is this true or not? Have we all experienced these states of action which have been totally, you know, the thought of outcome has not happened to us? When we work towards something, when I'm doing, I have to study so that I can do this, we are always guided. Like you see our children are like that, I have to get this much, whatever. So so the what they're saying is, Osho says, you put in your willpower. And if you can work with trust, is a very important aspect. Trust will come big time when we go into chapter 7 to 12. Without trust, Gita, you will not be able to progress on Gita. Trust has to be cultivated. It will cultivated, or it will happen through experience, which is why go out and experience. Go out and experiment. Experiment with God. Experiment with life. If you're going to sit here and just listen to the scripture, it will not happen. Some of this has actually happened to me. I've gone ahead, I've done certain practices, and literally, like, like, uh, I don't know how to say this, experimented with God. I have experimented with God and seen results, or seen things happen, or seen things uh, manifest which once it becomes your true felt experience, your trust rises. Trust will happen only when there is felt experience. That is why you need to throw yourself out a little bit. Either you go to through some different sadhanas, some practices, some spiritual meets, or I actually run a practice once we go into chapter 7 where I will push you to do something which is not ordinary, which might look whatever, but you have to interact with God and see what happens. You have to experiment. You'll have to figure out ways of experimenting with God to cultivate trust. Very important. Without that, uh, it's difficult to progress on Gita. And divine responds to this deep trust within you. And if he does not respond, and if you are trusting, it means divine does not exist. Push yourself, throw yourself like this. See, I will share an example with you, okay? Something from my real life about trust. So, my grandfather, you remember that Union Carbide Bhopal gas tragedy that happened? So, my grandparents were in Bhopal that time, and my grandfather has been a Ram Bhakt all his life, very, very devoted Ram Bhakt. And, they were very close to that site where the gas leak happened. And uh, and the whole family, they were in a joint family. My mommies were there, little children were there. And, they all, it happened in the night, and my grandmother got up, and everybody was feeling uncomfortable. She started taking out jaggery, something, giving to everybody. And then people started walking out of their house. Everybody started vacating their house. And, my grandfather told me, people had fallen on streets, others were trying to help them, many fainted. So, in all of that thing, everybody got separated. Like my aunts were somewhere, the children were thankfully, the children were with the aunts, but my Masi, she, no trace of her was found for like 3 days, okay? And my Nanaji, that time, he was with my uncle in the other part of the city, and he told me, and I was still in school in those days, but he told me this. And I still remember, I think that was his way of inculcating a certain trust and a certain thing in me. So he says, my Masi was not found. And he went and he told his God, he said, if I don't get any news of Mamta by today evening, I will never come back to your door again. I will never come to you again. He said that to his God, who he had been devoted to. By that afternoon, he had a call from my Masi. She, another family had helped her, and she had gone to uh, another part of the city, and they were very helpful. Whatever, she had also fainted, and finally she called up. Everything was sorted out. But this is what I'm telling you. You have to experiment with God. And for that, you have to put in the energy. You have to put in the effort. That is a devotee. You have one has As we move, see, right now the first six chapters are really inquiry based. It's all questioning. It is working on your intellect. In the first six chapters, actually what Krishna is trying to do is trying to make your ego one pointed. Because if ego can become one pointed, you can transcend that and move into heart space, move into bhakti. But it will come 7 to 12, and that is much higher. That is it is it is a gift. If you can trust, if you can be in devotion, if you can love, it is a gift that is given to you, and you must harness that capacity. So okay, so even this example Osho gives of Draupadi, Draupadi, with all her willpower, she's trying to ensure that her sari, it does not come off. And it is her belief that Krishna just kept extending her sari. It was her belief, and it was so strong that divine presented itself through her will. So when your will becomes very strong, divine will becomes available to you. So focus on your action, focus on your will. This is something which we can learn, which be open and keep this idea as a seed inside yourself. Don't forget this, don't forget this. Really, action, trust, devotion. How am I going to cultivate? You just be with it. Some answers will come. If your longing is there, answers will come. So our will can harness divine will in our favor. uh, Whatever is left is the work of the divine. I think that is so our expectation is not going to lead us to the outcome. Trust is necessary, and and if trust is there, surrender is automatic. There is no such thing like mentally saying, "God, I surrender to you." I think if you have to mentally say, "God, I surrender to you," where is your trust? It is such a feeling zone that if you're trusting, automatically you are like that. Automatically you're surrendered. You don't have to verbalize this. These things don't come out. It is so. So okay. Now, Yogastha Kuru Karmani. Again, very, very important aspect from the Bhagavad Gita. This is often quoted. You must remember Yogastha Kuru Karmani. Sadguru, remember when we studied Yoga Sutras, somebody asked Sadguru. So Krishna says, Yogastha Kuru Karmani. First, establish yourself in yoga, then launch into activity, then come into the world. And Maharishi Patanjali says, first sutra, Atha Yoga Anushasanam. That means you have experienced everything you wanted to experience and you have realized it has not brought you fulfillment. Now begins yoga. So he asked him, what should I follow? Should I listen to Krishna or Patanjali? So then Sadhguru explains to him that if you are going to experience everything, you will be here in multiple cycles. You can also learn from other people's experiences, observing. You don't see, it requires a certain amount of intelligence to learn from other people's experiences. If you are going to say everything has to happen to me, good luck. You can wait for many, many lifetimes here, if you have to go through everything. Buddha was like this. He had the intelligence to ask questions, to move into this path when everything was beautiful in his life. He had everything. There was nothing. Materially, he was absolutely, totally fulfilled. Yet, at that point, he asks these questions: what is the point of it? For many of us, yeah, learning from others' experiences can be very, very helpful. It can expedite our own growth. So, yogastha, being steadfast in yoga, you perform your. So, duty is another word which is very common in commentaries, and I am using Swami Mukundananda's commentary, but duty is not a word that I like. And being with Osho, I figured out why I don't like it because duty is a very ugly word. Just to explain to you, uh, you have a child, a mother has a child, a mother has to look after the child. Is it would the mother say it's my duty to feed the child? Isn't it a spontaneous action that a mother would engage in? It's not duty, it's a spontaneous action which comes out of love. When you are saying that it is my duty, it means you don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. It has a very ugly aspect to it. And when you don't want to do it, how can you be 100% engaged in it? You cannot be, no? You So, working from a place of love and totality, there was a very nice example Osho had given. He says, suppose, somebody comes to your house, okay? There is very little food left, or maybe there's just food for you, and somebody just shows up, and a dear friend shows up. What will you say? It is, purely out of love, you will take your food and you will give it to him, isn't it? Somebody has come after such a long time, you don't even care, yeah, whether I have or not. You're just so happy to feed. Is it because it is your duty to feed him, or is it just out of a outpouring of love that you are offering this to the person who has come to your house? Maybe it's your brother, maybe it's your family, and you didn't cook or whatever. Do you get what I'm saying? It is an outpouring of love. It is from a place of love that you are acting, not because it is my duty. It has such a burdensome a fragrance to you do it has a very burdensome feel to it. You don't want to go that path. Don't make it about duty. Do it because it should be done from a place of love. And if that is not happening, look within yourself and align your thoughts. Work a little bit on your thoughts. If you can work on your thoughts, use your buddhi and your intellect so that you can align yourself and then do the action. So, yogastha kuru karmani. First, center yourself and then act. So, even if a thought comes like this, oh, now what? Take a moment, go within and center. How can I think about this situation? From which perspective should I think of this situation so that I can respond from a place of love and not from a place of being burdened and duty and no. So, yeah, I really like that explanation that Osho gave. And so, first establish yourself in yoga and then act. So, see, we are all in this world. Waves will rise. To say that no waves should happen, no waves should topple my boat, this doesn't work. It is not going to happen because that is the nature of the world. Waves will come, it, it might topple you here and there, but you stay centered. This is very important. Don't keep getting disturbed every time there is a wave that is rising. And don't expect the ocean or the material world that you are living in to become something that is other than the ocean. No, this is how it is. Life is like this. It will throw all kinds of challenges at you, and this is how it is. So coming into that acceptance. So, working from a place of trust, working from a place of love, these are the ways to move towards Buddhi Yoga. Now, see, so when we speak of this whole idea of Buddhi Yoga, it's Osho has called this also as the yoga of equilibrium, a place of balance. So yogasth kuru karmani, what does it mean? It means you stay balanced. Maintain your equilibrium. You maintain your center. Don't keep falling on this side and that side. It's like life, slaps you like this, you become like this. Life slaps you like that, you become like that. No, don't become like that. Life will slap you. That is the nature of the ocean. Waves will come, they will slap us. But you maintain your center. You choose how you want to be. So, uh, see, this is again a very, very high level of truth, but let's look at it. So, how can this happen? How can I stay Yogastha Kuru Karmani all the time? It will happen if you become choiceless. It will happen if you are in Krishna's state of consciousness. Nothing disturbs him. War karna hai, okay. Nahi war karna hai, okay. Everything is okay. He's fine. He does not think it's even worth renouncing. He's like that. So, there is a certain state of choicelessness. Like I gave you that example of, when the child plays with a doll, you are in a state of choicelessness. Doesn't matter. This side, that side, I'm okay. I can go with anything. So, how do we remain in that state of balance and choicelessness? Osho gives this example. He says, see, when somebody is walking on that rope, okay, when the gymnast feels that it's how do you walk on a rope? You are always aware of your interiority. If you feel that the balance is tipping on the left, she will automatically move a little bit to the right. The choice is not to move to the right. Please notice, her choice is not to move to the right. Her action is to stay centered. Do you understand? The choice is not to move to left or to right. The choice is to act in such a way that she stays centered and doesn't fall off. This is what we need to do in our life. Whenever we are acting, if you feel you are running to one extreme, find a way that will bring you to your center. Sometimes we may have to do something which is a little different to bring us back to our center. So keep watching yourself, what is happening within you. Are we s- are we still centered? Are we working from a place of balance, equilibrium, or are we swinging to one side and losing our equilibrium? And this takes practice, this takes constant awareness, uh, but very important. Remember to stay balanced. Remember to look at yourself, uh, to check where are you weighing heavier, and keep returning to your center. Um, An important thing is that to remember is that equilibrium does not mean inertia. Equilibrium does not mean insipidity. I'm such a boring person. No, it's not that. Equilibrium is actually a very dynamic state because inside you, you are so aware, so deeply attentive. Only an attentive person can maintain equilibrium, right? Only he can stay balanced. There's a very nice example. Suppose there is a 1 foot plank, okay, 1 foot width long plank which is on the floor. somebody asks you, walk on this 1 foot, just 1 foot width. Okay, you can easily walk on the 1 foot width plank, from one end to the other end. Now, I take this 1 foot wide plank, place it between the two roofs of two buildings, and say, walk on it. So it's still 1 foot, it is still the same plank. But now, if I ask you to walk on this between two roofs, how many of us would dare to do it? In the first two steps, we'd be like, if the mind gets distracted, a dog barks, somebody shouts at me, I'll get so distracted, I'll lose my balance, isn't it? So, so the state of equilibrium requires huge attention, deep attention, and uh, only then you can maintain that. And this will happen by witnessing. Be aware. Awareness practice is very important. Keep looking within yourself. So if you saw that thing which I gave, which I sent from Jiddu Krishnamurti on the group chat, he says desires are just rising. You look at a car, you look at beautiful clothes, something is happening inside you. Jahan, if you look at something nice, you want to possess it. You look at a beautiful flower, I want to possess it. Isn't that happening? You see a movie, surfing, oh, I want to watch this. So desires are constantly rising. They're like every second desires are rising. So you can't curb. You just simply watch how they're coming. What are they creating inside you? What is the path that they are taking? That is the way to watch and then burn the seeds of desire slowly that we studied in Yoga Sutra, to burn these seeds. So so, an individual who consciously decides not to choose, even if he has the possibility to choose, remains in the middle between two polarities. Difficult state, one probably comes into it through practice, or like we have come into it when we are playing with our children, but we have not come into that state when we are really attending to what we call as a serious aspects of our life. Because but krishna for Krishna, we are like that child who are looking at this with too much seriousness. It is not as serious, it is still a doll's play for Krishna. So it will happen only when our consciousness rises to Krishna's level of consciousness. Okay. Now, let's look at this. So now we have read the Bhagavad Gita. I should become choiceless. All right. I have decided. Now I am not going to make any choices. I will remain choiceless. Does that mean that I'm in equilibrium? No. So shall I choose not to choose uh, in order to attain equilibrium? So I'm going to be choiceless. I will choose not to choose. Now, the very fact that you are saying I will choose not to choose is a choice. So there is a contradiction there. I want to go beyond all contradictions. I will not choose any of these polarities. That itself is a choice. So you have not come into choicelessness. This is called, just listening to Bhagavad Gita, immediately I want to internalize. No, कृष्णा टेढ़ी खीर है, बहुत. It's like you need to work to to come to Krishna. It takes a lot of it is going to take practice. It will take sadhana. You cannot make a choice and decide you want to be beyond polarities. Obviously, state of transcendence is a natural blossoming that happens with practice. If you are making a choice between equilibrium and non-equilibrium, then it's not choiceless state anymore. Okay, only one way: awareness of polarity and awareness of yourself. That is the only thing that you have to do. Once you become aware of yourself, equilibrium will start happening, choicelessness will start happening. So how should I do this? Awareness. Be aware of both the polarities and aware of yourself. So just be aware of what is happening inside you. Am I getting drawn to this? Am I feeling a lot of aversion from this? And then, in that awareness, make the most sensible choice in that moment with whatever knowledge you have. Don't we cannot aspire to be like Krishna right away, or we cannot copy his behavior and become Krishna. You cannot copy him and become. You have to walk that path. So when you see yourself separate from polarity, slowly it will start happening. The path of awareness is slow. Osho bhi bolte hai, it is arduous. It is a very, very slow path. Doesn't matter. Keep doing it. So one is to do it in life. Second thing is you must have some sadhana. All this breath watching that we do. Like Osho says, whenever you are sitting, wherever you are, Become aware of your breath. Just become aware of the movement of your belly. It's going out, it's coming in. There could be a pause between it. He says this is a simple awareness practice. What it will do is it will keep sharpening your awareness and it will inform your awareness capacity in situations in life. So this is one of the I do this sometimes, if I'm uh, just sitting or waiting, you can just do this even for a few minutes. Also, if it doesn't mind, even if it's for a few minutes, just become aware. Let's do this 1 minute. Everybody close your eyes, sit down. Just a few seconds. Just sit down and just totally relax and just take your attention to your belly. And whichever way the breath is going, let it go. And if it's going out, notice how it's going out, what's happening to the belly. There could be a pause between an inhale and exhale. Just notice how the belly is moving. Don't try to breathe. Don't do anything. Just relax and just witness. Okay. Slowly open your eyes. You feel that? Isn't it very relaxing? It's a very relaxing practice. Very, very relaxing practice. Just take your attention there. Yeah, it will relax you. If you see there is too much tension which is rising, just do this for a few minutes. Just sit, do nothing, just witness. It's very helpful. Okay, 49. Seek refuge in divine knowledge and insight, O Arjun, and discard reward seeking actions that are certainly inferior to works performed with the intelligence established in divine knowledge. Miserly are those who seek to enjoy the fruits of their work. So Osho says on this, when this equilibrium manifests through the yoga of intelligence, this is his translation. I like these translations better. When this equilibrium manifests through yoga of intelligence, action which is motivated by desires becomes utterly meaningless. Therefore, O Arjun, take refuge in your own equilibrium. This is the yoga of intelligence. This because those who yearn for outcome become miserable. So you focus on equilibrium. To focus on equilibrium, you focus on awareness. Slowly, this will happen. If you keep focusing on outcomes, you will become miserable. Because so the way this is explained is mind is like this. If you focus totally on action and you're 100% involved in your action, mind does not have space to go into outcomes. The moment it goes into outcomes, it will run into anxiety. Will it happen? Will it not happen? How much here? How much there? Gain, loss? So much anxiety it will create that it will suck away all your energy, which could have otherwise gone into making your action deeper, solid, more total. So then it will impact your outcome in any case. So just focus more and more on action and be total in that. Um, so see, how you engage in action can change the way uh, how to be total. See, many people see when you don't like to do something, it is very difficult to be total. No, there is some activity you don't like. If there's a chore you don't like, so difficult to be total. It's very hard. So then you have to use your buddhi. God has given us buddhi. Use your buddhi to give your mind a perspective. Intellect is the lord of the mind. We studied in Yoga Sutras that there is uh, body. The lord of the body is the mind. The lord of the mind is buddhi. Buddhi controls the mind. So use your buddhi to give a perspective to your mind to channel energy like that. So, Swami Mukundananda gives this example in his commentary. He says, Vrindavan, there is a temple that is being built, and there is this contractor who has employed these laborers who are getting a very high wage to build this temple. They are all working for the high wages, correct? There is another bhakt there, a sannyasi bhakt, and he says, "Oh, a temple is being built for Krishna. I also want to participate in it. I also want to, place some bricks. I also want to." So he volunteers to do the same activity that the laborers are doing. Both are doing the same activity, and yet there is huge difference in their activity. you notice the activity of that sannyasi will be more total because of the intention with which he does. So whenever you do an activity, and if you feel that you're not total, take a pause, step back, and see how you can set a certain intention for your activity. Why am I doing this? Can I do this as an activity to offer to God? So if and these are all, you will have to build your own techniques or processes. Suppose you are doing something for a client, and you're working on a project. You don't like the project, you find it very boring, but you say, but you have to do it, it's part of your work. How to be total? I'm going to do this project because today my offering to Krishna is not going to be an incense stick, is not going to be flowers, is not going to be a chant. It is going to be this project. On a piece of paper, write down the name of your project, fold it, go give it to Krishna on your altar, and say, this is my offering to you. Now, when you have offered, if you truly are the kind of person who has bhakti in you, who has love for God, your action will become nice. Your action will become total. So you will have to explore some of these ideas and try it. See, it may sound like, ye kya hai, Don't go with this idea. Do it and see it. Tomorrow, when you find yourself doing an activity which you don't like, if you have to move in the path of yoga, we have to become total. You please write it down that this activity today is my offering. Fold that piece of paper and go offer it. No incense stick, nothing. This is my offering today. And then do your see, and please share your experiences, share it on the group chat. If any of you, I have done some of this thing, I've done some of these that's how you will explore your relationship with God. With And I'm not saying God in a religious way. I'm saying you will explore your relationship with a higher consciousness. What is your relationship with it? If you don't experiment, if you don't try something which is bizarre, if you keep doing the same thing, how will you come into it? And it is not going to happen just by reading and talking. Like Osho, throughout his Bhagavad Gita commentary, one thing he keeps saying is, आप सुनते ना रहें, प्रयोग करें. सुनते ना रहें, प्रयोग करें. Experiment. Always throughout he keeps saying that. सिर्फ सुनने से कुछ नहीं होगा. सुनने से भ्रम हो जाता है कि आपको आ गया, आपको आया कुछ नहीं. It is just so please try. If you have your own ideas and you've explored your own ideas, something came to you and it helped you, share it on the group chat. Maybe somebody else can try. It works. It's like participating in that child's play. It's a way. It's a way to engage the mind. Use your buddhi to engage the mind. Uh, and that's human capacity too. Okay, then outcomes will not bother. It will become easier to move. All right, so witnessing is the way to move in this direction. You have to become. Yoga of intelligence says, know the one who stands behind all choices. So it is not a cerebral activity, it is not intellectualism. uh, you have to understand who is the doer and the witness. Okay, don't identify yourself with the doer. Don't say, I'm doing it. So I have there's this friend of mine and her grandmother. So when she was hungry, she would never say, I'm hungry. She would say, uh, uh, my body is hungry, this body is hungry. This is a way to delink yourself from the doer. The moment I say I am, then my doer, witness, everything is a mush. It's mixed up. Keep the doer separate from witness. These are also small practices. This body is hungry. This body is experiencing aversion, or aversion is rising here. I am not averse. I hate it. I dislike it. Don't talk like. See, many of us talk like this in our head all the time. These stories are going on. Just change the mode of the story inside. It is running in the head. Don't like this. Again, I have to do this. Don't. Just say, this body does not is uh, displeasure rises in this body with this. Just keep it slightly away. These are all practices to create distance. Many of you are initiated into kriya yoga. That itself takes care of some of this. Okay. 50th verse, one who prudently practices The science of work without attachment can get rid of both good and bad reactions in this life itself. Good and bad reactions, imagine. Therefore, strive for yoga, which is the art of working skillfully. Very important. So, Yogasth Kuru Karmani, we came in this class. Then Karmanyevadhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana. That was another important verse, which is like, don't be attached to fruits of action. Then yoga karmasu kaushalam. Yoga karmasu or karmasu, I don't know. Yoga karmasu kaushalam. Very important. Means skill in action is yoga. These are definitions of yoga. So when we speak of definitions of yoga, we say yoga chitta vritti nirodha, which is given by Maharishi Patanjali. Then Krishna's definition of yoga, yogastha kuru yoga karmasu kaushalam, which means yoga is skill in action. Now, many people think yoga is skill in action means I should be an expert at what I'm doing. That is not that is not what is being said. You must do your job with absolute involvement. That is karmasu kaushalam, not that you are an expert. See, I may not be an expert at cooking, but if I am doing this with absolute involvement, with love, with attention, then I am attending to that practice skillfully. If I'm following the process, you know how engaged I am in my action. So, so I think nothing more on that. So remember this yoga karmasu kaushalam and buddhi yukta. So see, there is one of my teachers with who I studied. He gave a very nice explanation of what is buddhi yukta. He says, see, a child when he is learning to walk, he falls many times, but every time the child gets up and says and just moves on. What are we like if we are not able to perform an action well, or we are not happy with the outcome? Oh, I did so badly. We carry so much burden. So buddhi yukta means drop all that and simply rise into action. Drop all that burden. I'm good, I'm bad, judgments, I'm a failure, I don't know how to do it. Drop all this. Buddhi yukta means get up and get into action. A child gets back into that walking motion with absolute engagement. That is what um, James had emphasized that. I like that example on Buddhi Yukta. So I think I have Osho's translation also here on this. Yeah. So on this 50th verse, which is on Yoga Karmasu Kaushalam, an intelligent man transcends both sin and virtue while being in this world. That is to say, he remains unaffected. Try to achieve this state through yoga of intelligence. Only the yoga of intelligence will allow you to be blissful while performing actions. This is the way to free yourself from the bondage of actions. Okay, never mind. This car I already shared with you to do the root word. How to rejoice in an action. Not all actions are fun. It will happen when you come to a certain state of stillness within you. So, see, and that stillness comes from a place of silence within you. If you have a certain silence which is thick and strong in you, then uh, this rejoicing does not mean um, like that effervescent excitement. It's not that. It's like there's a deep sense of satisfaction, there's a deep sense of contentment that comes within you. So, and an action like Arjun's will be so hard to rejoice in. How can you rejoice? But he can still work from a deep state of silence and contentment. That is still possible. It is not that effervescent excitement. Oh, I'm going to, shoot. Not like that. So, um, this will it will happen through stillness and equilibrium. Now I'm just little bit of interruption here, but taking from Swami Sarvapriyananda's commentary, he says, how do you become skillful in your action? He says, see, many of us follow this. Every human being has mind, body, emotion, energy. This is what we are made of. So some of us who are, say, following the path of karma, we are too engaged in too much engaged in outward action. Sometimes, we become so involved with people, with what they think about us, or maybe get caught up in adulation, etc. Then you know that you are swinging in one direction. To establish your equilibrium, you need to come into a little bit of Raja Yoga. You need to meditate. You need to go within yourself. So look at this and use this also as a configuration to manage your own equilibrium. How to come into equilibrium? Notice yourself and see what will help you come into that state of balance. So bhakti sometimes, a lot of bhakti can sometimes just be about celebration and food. Bhakti often, if it is at its lowest level, when bhaktas get together at their lowest level, all they are doing is get together for entertainment, dress up, and food, and bhakti is lost. There is no devotion there. So then you know what you need to do to balance that. Then you need to do maybe some kriya to bring that, to make that happen. So use this grid to see how you can come into to keep establishing your equilibrium, to come into that evenness of mind. Mm. And yes, in Swami Sarvapriyananda's commentary also, he keeps saying that how to turn an action into an opportunity for liberation. Keep spiritualizing your action. I told you last time, when he mentioned that I was stopped at the airport and they were frisking me, and he said, okay, every time the security guard asked him, give us a give us a lecture, and he said every time, since you are devoted to Hanumanji, every time you frisk somebody, mentally you visualize that I'm offering a flower to Hanumanji. That's the way you spiritualize your action. So, so the skill is in the action which binds you, using the skill to turn those actions into liberating actions. That is the skill that we need. Okay. How do you use your buddhi to turn the action which binds you into liberating? Like I gave you that example. I don't like to do this. Now see how you can offer it to Krishna, how you can work from a place of love and just offer it to, and use that as an opportunity for liberation. So just summing up a little bit here, intensity of desires weakens by itself as you focus on spiritual practices, purification practices. Suppression is not advised. This is very important. You cannot suppress. Suppression will not take you there. Samskaras slowly change as we raise consciousness. Don't worry about that example of the monk. Um, Desire for God, I told you, Ramakrishna says that it's okay. Desire for God is the only desire that is worth having, because that desires cuts all other desires. So, uh, okay, I think so. So, 4 points that we need to remember to bring that equilibrium, to make our actions, uh, how we can take our mind off the outcomes of the action. Focus, ekagrata. Mind has to move in one direction. Do it as an offering, as an act of love and devotion, absolute involvement, and without expectation. So even if you are at your work, you take your Bhagavad Gita to your work. It should happen there. These teachings should apply. It really should. It really, you can work like an undercover yogi. Outside people will think you are just doing that thing, but within you, when you are doing, it's like you treat the next time your client comes to you, you treat him like, he is a gopi of Krishna, and he has come to you. He is connecting to you like other gopis or like the other bhaktas connect with you. He's just a fellow bhakt. Just change perspective and see what rises within you. I'm telling you, these things are I have actually done this. I do some of this. It's very potent. It just shifts sometimes, and uh, it has a ripple effect. Even the environment at work begins to shift. I've really seen it. If anybody is interested in talking with me separately, I can share more, but right now I'm not going into it. The wise, endowed with equanimity of intelligence, abandon attachment to the fruits of actions which bind one to the cycle of life and death. By working in such consciousness, they attain the state beyond all suffering. So, do we know death? We don't. We think that we know death. None of us really know death. We have never experienced any death. We look at other people dying, and therefore we have a projection of death. Do you know what death is? Have you ever died? According to us, we have never died, and many of us even think that death is something which only happens to other people. So it's almost like an imitative idea. We don't really know it. We have never experienced it. So it is not a direct experience. It's simply it's an assumption we make. But when you come into this high state of consciousness, you will realize that it was an error. You will know that death actually is an error. So those of you, who did Yoga Sutra, you remember so as you go through this path of yoga of intelligence, Nishkam Karma, one is you can do it only when you're in high state of consciousness, but it will also take you towards high state of consciousness. Then this error will get corrected. See, this is the highest thing which Krishna is saying. It's like the ultimate. So right now, when a pencil is put inside a cup of a glass of water, the pencil looks bent, correct? Now, if I'm looking at it in my experience, I will keep saying it is bent, it is bent, it is bent. You can keep telling me there is no death. Krishna can keep screaming, there is no death, there is only life and life. But no, I see it. The pencil is bent. But the moment I have taken it out, seen it, and I put it back, I know this is just a game. This is just a leela. This is just an illusion. It's just an appearance. He says this knowledge will happen to you, w- staying on this path of yoga of intelligence. So that there is just life and life, and this error that you had in your mind will get corrected. So I think what is the time? Almost there. Okay, I got 5 minutes. I have just one more. I wanted to do up to 53. 52 we'll stop. 53 we'll take next time. So when your intelligence crosses the quagmire of delusion, you will then acquire indifference to what has been heard and what is yet to be heard. Now, see, any attachment is darkness, okay? Mm, so shall I choose detachment? So I already spoke about that choosing detachment is not real renunciation. Don't run in the opposite direction. Attachment also creates desires. So for those of attachment creates desires, desires create bondage. Okay, thought creates bondage. Um 1 second, I want to just see. Osho has spoken a little bit here about desires and attachments, and he says. When you are attached, you are in darkness. If you remember that example, I think we took this also in Yoga Sutras. There is an old man, okay? His house is on fire. He's standing there seeing his house on fire, and he is in so much grief and anxiety. And oh my God, what will happen? What a big loss. And then suddenly, someone comes running to him and says that, oh, don't worry, your son made a deal, and yesterday he sold this house. Suddenly, that old man is filled with a sense of relief. Oh, thank God. Now it is not mine. Earlier, this house was mine. Now this house is not mine. Uh, Half an hour later, his son comes there and says that, I did sign a deal. We spoke about it, but nothing has gone in paper. So the house has not really, it doesn't have another owner. We are still the owners. Again, that man is filled. Oh, my house is burning. Again, he's filled with the same anxiety, that same tension. What is going to happen? Such a big loss. So we are all in delusion. Osho is trying in this sutra, he's trying to explain. He says this is a delusion. You keep thinking what is not yours as yours. That house is and look at the power of that delusion. What what it creates inside you. Isn't it? It's a very powerful example to what it can create. The moment I think it is happening to me and the moment I think it is happening to someone else, it's clear. So it becomes easier to so this delusion is happening, and this the cause of this delusion is your attachment to things. What is not mine, you consider as mine. So this was an example of a house on fire, your possessions on fire, but we are also, this body is mine. We are so stuck to it. And then my people and my family, all of this is just delusion. So all of this you will so Krishna says you will come out of this delusion. This will happen to you if you simply go, if you can rise in the yoga of intelligence. So this feeling of possession is very binding. Um, Now, the 53rd shloka, when your intellect ceases to be allured by the fruitive sections of the Vedas and remains steadfast in divine consciousness, you will then attain the state of perfect yoga. So, there are fruitive sections of the Vedas. There is first part of the Vedas, which is all about karma kand, about how you can get what you want depending on certain rituals. Like even if you wanted to get, in the olden times, if you want rain to happen, there are certain rituals that can be done to invite rain. So all of this is there. Uh, it is there in Purva Mimamsa, which is that part of the Vedas, and the second half of the Vedas is the Vedanta, Brahma Sutras, Bhagavad Gita, Upanishads, which is what is called as Vedanta, which is what Swami Sarvapriyananda speaks on. So don't be allured by all this. Why were in those times people were just, when you wanted materialistic possessions, you went into this first part of the Vedas. Today also it's like it was very outcome oriented. They did not want liberation. People who were following Purva Mimamsa only wanted worldly pleasures, uh, just to do a little bit better in their life, but it was not towards liberation. So Krishna says, don't get allured by all these outcomes and material pleasures alone. Stay steadfast in divine consciousness, then you will come into yoga. Osho has translated, when you are exposed to many different doctrines and your mind goes astray, become steady and unwavering in your essential nature, which is divine, and you will attain the yoga of equilibrium. Become steady and unwavering. Now, in today's world, when we speak of steady and unwavering, a very common terminology is be calm and collected. I hear my husband say this so many times to my children, calm and collected and then respond. Yes, it is calm and collected. But look, Osho gives this example of um, Stalin and Hitler, and how these people actually were so dominated by fear. They came across as people who were to be feared, but they themselves had a lot of fear. Like Stalin was so afraid to eat the food that was served to him. Four people had to eat the food that was served to him to make sure it was not poisoned, and they had doubles. Like if they had to make a public appearance, they wouldn't go out themselves. They had a double who would go out and he would just come for some final thing. So imagine the kind of misery they must have been within themselves to live like that. There is another example Osho gives of Lenin. He says Lenin had very short legs, his upper body torso was long. So whenever he sat even on an average sized chair, his legs would always be hanging, and he would make a comment like, so what if my legs don't touch the floor? I will teach you how to touch the sky. These are words that come from a man who is suffering from a complex within himself. Nobody may have even noticed his legs, but he was so self conscious about it. So they created a facade of being very calm and collected. But this calm and collected is not the stillness that Krishna is speaking of. He is speaking of a certain silence that happens within you, and therefore you come into a certain stillness. It is not, I don't know if you can understand this word called thick silence. It's a thick silence. It's so, and if you're practicing, or when you are very deeply engaged in an activity and you're 100% there, sometimes this feeling of thick silence can come. You're so centered, nothing moves. It's like, and it's not that nothing moves because you are insipid inside. There is no activities. There is phenomenal amount of activity going inside, but you are so perfectly centered. It's like a perfectly spinning top. When a perfectly spinning top spins, it looks like it's not even moving at all, but it's perfectly centered. It looks almost like it's still. It's only, most of the times we are like tops which are falling this way or that. We're not really centered. So this is the kind of centering that Krishna is speaking of. And yeah, I had that little thing from Paramahansa Yogananda. Um, so there is, so you can say I'm going to be courageous. When you say I'm going to be courageous, it means causes of fear exist within you. Does that make sense to you? Have courage, do it, go ahead, do it, but the cause of fear exists within you. There is another state of being where causes of fear have disappeared within you and therefore you act. So ये कहाँ आ गया? This is not the one. Yeah. So um, So there is no cause of fear which exists within you. That is the state that he is speaking of. It is not about suppressing an inner weakness that you become, by which you will become calm and collected. It is when your inner weakness completely disappears, that is when you will become steady and unwavering. And Krishna is referring to that level of steadiness, not the one that we are imposing and superimposing on ourselves in our regular materialistic life. I have been talking non-stop. Over to you. Yes. Anyone, anything? You have any thoughts to share? Does that make sense? Is it okay?
So I think
Is it
everything makes sense on Sunday evening. Monday to Saturday is a problem.
मंडे टू सैटरडे ध्यान करेंगे, प्रैक्टिस करेंगे.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's like learning to ride a bicycle, right? Lot of times, you think you have figured it out. That's exactly when you lose balance. It requires constant practice.
mm.
Everything makes sense right now. Right now, I'm on top of the world. But Monday morning, 9:30, it's all gone.
Swati,
Okay.
I
Huh.
have a question about, desirelessness um, and you were saying we shouldn't be focused on the outcome. But when the longing is great and you work on your will, is that not a, I feel like I'm missing something there.
No, so what is the question? Yes, it is natural to be focused on outcome. Nobody is saying that. It is very natural for all of us to be focused on outcome. But what Krishna is saying is that if you keep focusing on outcome, you will generate more misery within yourself. You will not come into high states of consciousness. So in this chapter, he is trying to state the highest truth. Really, it's very esoteric. I'm telling you, I think chapter 2 is the most esoteric of all the chapters, the most esoteric. It's like the most ultimate truths are being stated. So he's saying, don't uh, be attached to expectations and outcomes. Instead, take that energy of attachment and put it into your action.
Okay. So it's not about, so I think that's the attachment. Because remember when you said like, because the longing in us was great, you came to us. We didn't attach anything to whoever it might be who would come to us to help us with our spiritual journey. Or not,
Correct.
and that's
Correct.
okay. Got it.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else? Anybody else? Any thoughts, comments? Anything, any experiences, any practices that you've been doing, something which has got you inside, something which has helped you, which you think that can help people in our group. See, that it's also about being with fellow seekers. So what helps you, something that you may want to share which might help others?
They have tried this, offering up your actions to Krishna or to whoever divine being that you connect to, and at work, right? I mean, sometimes most of us, 80% of what you do is there is some resistance. You do it because of many reasons, and it's not very pure. You are always, there's a little bit of a struggle or resistance because you have to do things you don't always enjoy. So I've tried to do that, and it works. You can make that into an act of devotion. The challenge is to do it consistently over a long period of time.
How
Yes,
do
it
you
works.
So how do you do it at work? Like how would you offer it, Vinay? Is it like just and mentally, like okay, say whatever project you have, maybe it's not your favorite project. How do you do it? How do you actualize it physically?
I mean, it's usually I try to do it on a task basis. If there is a task that always kind of drags and it's not a big priority, if you enjoy something, then it gets done fast. As simple as that, right? So you just basically you use the word sankalp. You do a little sankalp to yourself that okay, this is something I'm going to do it the best I can because I'm doing this for Krishna or somebody else. And that, like what you said, it does help focus your energies a little bit because you're not in constant resistance, and
Hmm.
even while you're working on it, you're not fighting yourself to get it done with, and you do it with a little bit more dedication and love. And I think that that does have an impact on the outcome. The challenge is to do it consistently until it becomes habit. That's where you kind of fall off the wagon.
Okay. Okay, that's nice. Anybody else? Anything?
Yeah, so yeah, when we did the visa before and we talked about these things, I did the same thing as the and practice, especially in my. Can you hear me?
Can everyone hear Shaila very clearly? Even I can't make out what she's
Maybe
saying.
it's my system, it's not good. Can you hear me now? No?
Okay, just speak slowly, because something is like, yeah, audio is not very good.
Okay, no, so I was just saying the same thing as Vinay said that when we were talking about this, I would go out and try practice that, in my work, like especially in the tech season when I'm frustrated and tired. That helps. But like you said, consistency. In fact, I actually forgot about it until you mentioned it today. You know, same thing like where you said that you treat someone as a gopi or you see Krishna in somebody, and that has happened to me. I was able to do that, and also with a lot of emotion. It's happened to me when I dance. It's happened to me when I don't like somebody, and I want to have compassion, and it has really worked. But again, it was out of my mind until you mentioned it. So that is where the challenge is, keeping it consistently going and remembering to do that all the time.
Yeah, so okay, just to summarize, so consistency is a problem, remembering, but you have had experiences where people who you didn't like, you asked yourself, how am I going to find Krishna in them? So see, we say no, for a bhakt, one who is in love, if you cannot see God in all, you cannot see God at all. And many times God is hiding so deep. You have to literally do a lot of spade work to find God in someone. And how will you find? Make that a project. That can be your search. That how do I see God in him? What is divine about this person? Because mind may have a tendency to just look at criticizing somebody who you don't like. So then to shift this is called buddhi yoga, giving the charge to intellect and not the mind, which is a place of likes and dislikes. The intellect can help you shift your perspective and help you center yourself, help you move into the path of equity. Do I get that right, Shaila? Thoda tuta tuta, yeah, the audio is not very good. Okay. All right. Anything else? No? Okay. If there's nothing more, then let's just close it. We'll take a closing mantra. Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Shri Krishna Arpanamastu. Namaste. Thank you very much, everybody. Good night.
Thank you.
I'll see you. I'll see you on Sunday. Thanks. Bye bye.
Good
Thank you,
night.
everyone. Good night.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night. Good night. Thank you.